1. We're checking out a 1985 Ford F-150 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $3,500. This classic pickup is rocking a black exterior with a blue interior, and it's powered by a 302 V8 engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. The seller bought it as a project, but has lost interest, so it's looking for a new home. Now, let's be real here. This truck needs some TLC. It's got a few issues that need addressing, like a wiper motor that needs replacing and a coolant reservoir that needs to be hooked up. The clutch is new, which is a plus, but it could use a new slave cylinder to really smooth things out. There are also some other odds and ends that'll need attention. On the bright side, the seller says it fires right up, which is always good news for a vehicle of this age. It's also sporting some like-new 33-inch tires, which is a nice touch. The truck has a clean title and is fully paid off, so no worries there. While the seller claims there's no significant damage or problems, keep in mind that with a project vehicle like this, there might be some surprises waiting for the new owner. But hey, that's part of the charm of working on an older truck, right? If you're looking for a project F-150 with some potential and don't mind putting in a bit of work, this could be the truck for you. Just make sure you're ready for the challenges that come with a 38-year-old vehicle. 2. We're checking out a 1978 Chevrolet 2500 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $10,000. This classic workhorse has got some serious upgrades and is ready to tackle whatever you throw at it. Let's start with the eye-catching orange exterior. It's definitely going to turn some heads. Under the hood, we've got a small block 400 full roller motor paired with a turbo 400 transmission, both of which have been built and only have about 25,000 miles on them. The seller even claims to have the paperwork to back that up, which is always a good sign. This K20 has been given a bit of a facelift with a 90s Suburban front clip, giving it a more modern look. It's also sporting a brand new Holley carb, and the steering and gearbox have been completely refreshed. But wait, there's more. This beast comes equipped with a heavy-duty Fisher plow that's all set up and ready to go. Perfect for those of you looking to make some extra cash during the winter months or just keep your driveway clear. Now, the seller says it runs and drives great, which is promising for a truck of this age. However, keep in mind that with any vehicle over 40 years old, there might be some quirks or issues that aren't immediately apparent. It's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection or have a mechanic take a look before making a purchase. One thing to note is that the seller is firm on the price and isn't interested in any trades, so if you're thinking about making an offer, keep that in mind. Overall, this 1978 Chevy K20 seems like a solid choice for someone looking for a classic truck with some modern upgrades and the ability to plow through snow. Just remember, with older vehicles, there's always the potential for unexpected repairs or maintenance. But hey, that's part of the charm of owning a classic, right? 3. We're taking a look at a 1979 Chevrolet Malibu that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $9,000. Now, I've got to be honest with you, there's a bit of confusion in the listing that we need to address right off the bat. The seller has described this vehicle as a truck, which is definitely not accurate for a Malibu. The Malibu is a classic mid-size car, not a truck, so that's either a mistake in the listing or some kind of unusual modification that isn't explained. It's important to clarify this with the seller if you're interested. Moving on to what we do know. This Malibu is sporting a blue exterior, which could look pretty sharp if it's in good condition. It's got an automatic transmission, which is typical for these models, and the odometer shows 69,000 miles. Now, for a car that's over 40 years old, that mileage seems pretty low. It could be original, or the odometer might have rolled over, so you'd want to verify the actual mileage. Unfortunately, the seller hasn't provided much information about the car's condition, features, or history. This lack of detail is a bit concerning, especially for a classic car at this price point. We don't know about the interior condition, the engine state, or any restoration work that might have been done. Given the limited information, it's hard to say whether $9,000 is a fair price. For a well-maintained or restored '79 Malibu, it could be reasonable, but without more details, it's impossible to make that call. If you're interested in this Malibu, you'll definitely want to ask the seller for a lot more information. Request additional photos, especially of the interior, engine bay, and undercarriage. Ask about its maintenance history, any restoration work, and whether it has any known issues. Remember, when dealing with classic cars, it's crucial to get as much information as possible and, if you can, have it inspected by a professional before making a purchase. This Malibu could be a gem, but without more details, it's a bit of a mystery. 4. We're checking out a 1978 Chevrolet 1500 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $13,500, or best offer. Now, let's dive into this classic pickup and give you the honest scoop. First off, this C10 has been around the block a few times with over 150,000 miles on the clock and at least 3 previous owners. It's sporting a sleek black exterior with a matching black interior, which could look pretty sharp if it's in good condition. Now here's where things get interesting. The seller mentions it's a 4x4, which is unusual for a C10 as they were typically rear-wheel drive. It's possible this truck has been converted, so you'll want to verify that. It's also got a 1986 front clip, giving it a bit of a facelift. Under the hood, we've got a 350 engine that the seller claims is very strong. However, they also mention that the cam is out very rough. This is a red flag, folks. A rough cam can cause all sorts of issues and might indicate some serious engine problems. You'll definitely want to have this checked out by a mechanic before making any decisions. The truck has an automatic transmission, which is convenient, and it's a desirable short bed configuration. The seller notes that it's paid off, so no worries about liens or outstanding payments. Now let's be real here. The asking price of $13,500 seems pretty steep for a truck with potential engine issues and an unclear 4x4 situation. The seller is open to offers, which is good because you might need to factor in some serious repair costs. If you're interested in this C10, you'll want to ask for more detailed photos, especially of the engine bay and undercarriage. Get a clear explanation of the 4x4 setup and the extent of the cam issues. It might be worth bringing along a mechanic for an inspection if you're serious about it. Remember, classic trucks like this can be a lot of fun, but they often come with hidden challenges. This 78 C10 could be a great project for the right person, but make sure you go in with your eyes wide open and your wallet prepared. 5. We're checking out a 1985 Chevrolet Silverado that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $8,000, but the seller's open to offers. Let's dive into this classic pickup and give you the straight scoop. First off, this Blue Beauty has only 73,000 miles on the clock, which is pretty impressive for a truck pushing 40 years old. It's rocking a matching blue interior, so if you're a fan of color coordination, this might tickle your fancy. Now the seller says it's a solid truck that runs and drives, which is always good to hear with older vehicles. However, they're upfront about a couple of issues. The window motor needs replacing, and there's a switch for the lights that needs attention. These aren't deal breakers, but they're definitely things you'll want to factor into your budget and fix sooner rather than later. The Silverado comes with an automatic transmission, which is great for those who prefer a more relaxed driving experience. It's a gasoline-powered truck, so no surprises there. Here's the thing, folks. While $8,000 might seem a bit steep for a truck with some known issues, remember that these classic Silverados are becoming increasingly popular among collectors and enthusiasts. The low mileage could justify the price if the overall condition is good. That said, we don't have a lot of details about the truck's overall condition, maintenance history, or any potential rust issues, which are common in older vehicles. You'll definitely want to ask for more photos, especially of the undercarriage, engine bay, and any problem areas. Before you make any decisions, it's worth taking a close look at this truck in person. Check for any signs of rust, test all the electronics, and maybe even bring along a mechanic for a thorough inspection. Don't be afraid to negotiate on the price, especially considering the known issues. Remember, buying a classic truck like this can be a fun project, but it's important to go in with your eyes open. This '85 Silverado could be a gem with some TLC, or it could be hiding some costly surprises. 6. We're taking a look at a 1972 Ford F-250 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $7,500. Let's dive into this vintage beauty and give you the honest lowdown. First off, this F250 is sporting an eye-catching orange exterior that's sure to turn heads. With 85,000 miles on the clock, it's got some life experience, but that's not too bad for a truck pushing 50 years old. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, which is great for those who prefer a more relaxed driving experience. Now, the seller's description is pretty brief, which leaves us with a few questions. They say it's a nice truck, but without more details, it's hard to know exactly what that means. Are we talking about a well-maintained original, a restored beauty, or just a solid old workhorse? We'll need more info to be sure. One big plus the seller mentions is that this truck no longer needs smog checks. That's a definite advantage for those of you in areas with strict emissions regulations. It could save you some headaches down the road. However, folks, we've got to be real here. The lack of detailed information in the listing is a bit concerning. We don't know about the condition of the interior, the state of the engine, or any potential rust issues, which are common in trucks of this age. The seller also doesn't mention any recent maintenance or repairs, which would be good to know for a vehicle of this vintage. At $7,500, the price could be reasonable if the truck is in good condition, but without more details, it's hard to say for sure. You'll definitely want to ask the seller for more information and photos, especially of the interior, engine bay, and undercarriage. If you're interested in this classic F250, I'd recommend seeing it in person before making any decisions. Give it a thorough inspection, take it for a test drive if possible, and don't be afraid to ask plenty of questions. It might be worth bringing along a mechanic who's familiar with older Ford trucks to give it a once-over. Remember, buying a classic truck like this can be a fun adventure, but it's important to go in with your eyes wide open. This 72 F250 could be a great find with some potential, but make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. 7. We're checking out a real gem, a 1965 Ford F100 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $7,200. Let me tell you, this one's got me excited. This blue beauty has only had one owner and has clocked 90,000 miles in its 58-year life. It's sporting a matching blue interior and comes with a manual transmission, a 3-on-the-tree with factory overdrive to be precise. That's a setup that'll bring back memories for some of you old-timers. Now let's talk about condition. The seller claims this F100 is bone stock and unmodified in any way. They're saying no rust, no dents, no dings, except for a small one on the tailgate, and they rate the body as a 10 out of 10. That's pretty impressive for a truck of this age. It's never been used for work, which explains the perfect bed, front pan, and tailgate. Under the hood, we've got the factory 352 CI engine. The seller mentions that everything under the hood has been replaced, and they're working on a list of what's been done. They've also sent out the carb for cleaning and installed a brand new Die-Hard AGM battery. However, they haven't set the timing or points yet, so it's not currently running. The truck comes with some nice extras like the original owner's manual, restored matching hubcaps, and new correct 5-rate white wall 235/75/15 tires. The seller even has the original radio and horn ring. Now here's the kicker. This truck has been parked since 2002. While it reportedly had 0 mechanical issues when parked, that's still a long time for a vehicle to sit. You'll want to factor in some potential work to get it road-ready again. At $7,200, this seems like a fair price for a well-preserved, one-owner classic F100, especially given all the recent work. However, you'll want to see it in person, inspect it thoroughly, and maybe bring along a classic Ford expert to check it out. Remember, while this F100 sounds like a dream, any vehicle that's been sitting for 20 years will need some TLC to get back on the road. But if you're looking for a pristine, original 65 F100 to restore or preserve, this could be the truck for you. 8. We're checking out a 1973 GMC 1500 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $8,500. Let's dive into this vintage beauty and give you the honest scoop. First off, this brown beast with a tan interior has only 17,000 miles on the clock. Now, that's incredibly low for a 50-year-old truck, so you might want to verify if that's original or if the odometer has rolled over. It's sporting a manual transmission, which is great for those who like to be more engaged with their driving experience. The seller claims this truck is clean and that everything mechanical is new. That's a bold statement, and if true, it could justify the asking price. They're confident enough to say it could drive to California and back without issues, which is pretty reassuring. However, let's talk about the elephant in the room: rust. The seller admits there are a few rust spots that need repairing. Now, with old trucks, a few rust spots can sometimes be an understatement. Rust can be like an iceberg. What you see on the surface might just be the tip of a bigger problem underneath. You'll definitely want to inspect these areas carefully. On the bright side, the truck has only had 2 owners, which often means it's been better cared for than vehicles that have been passed around more. The seller describes the truck as A1, aside from the rust issues. That's a pretty confident statement, but remember, A1 can mean different things to different people. It's always a good idea to see the truck in person and maybe bring along a mechanic who knows classic GMCs. At $8,500, the price could be reasonable if the mechanical work is as extensive as claimed, and if the rust issues aren't too severe. However, you'll want to factor in the cost of addressing those rust spots, which can add up quickly depending on their extent. Remember folks, buying a classic truck like this can be a fun adventure, but it's important to go in with your eyes wide open. This '73 GMC 1500 sounds like it has potential, but make sure you do your due diligence. Check out those rust spots, verify the mileage, and maybe take it for a spin to see if it really is as road trip ready as the seller claims. 9. We're taking a look at a 1971 Chevrolet C20 Longhorn that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $9,500. Let's dive into this vintage beauty and give you the honest lowdown. First off, this blue beast with a black interior is sporting a rebuilt 350 small block engine paired with a 700 R4 transmission. The seller claims these have only about 10,000 miles since the rebuild, which is a nice selling point if true. It's an automatic, so it should be a smooth ride for those who prefer not to row their own gears. Now, let's talk about the good stuff. The seller has put some work into this truck, replacing the steering gearbox, upper and lower control arms, window regulators, headliner, armrest, and radiator. That's a decent list of upgrades that should make this C20 more reliable and comfortable. Plus, the AC and heat are working, which is always a bonus in an older vehicle. But let's be real, folks. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. The seller is upfront about a few issues. There's some rust in the rockers, which is pretty common for these old trucks, but still something to keep an eye on. The tailgate and rear bumper have some damage, although the seller mentions they have a step bumper to replace it. Also, while most gauges are working, the speedometer is out of commission. That's something you'll want to fix sooner rather than later. At $9,500, the price seems fair considering the work that's been done and the overall condition. However, you'll want to factor in the cost of addressing the rust and any other potential issues that might be lurking under the surface. Remember, folks, buying a classic truck like this is always a bit of an adventure. This '71 C20 Longhorn sounds like it has a lot of potential, but it's not without its quirks and challenges. If you're looking for a project truck with a solid foundation, this could be a great option. Just make sure you inspect it thoroughly in person, maybe bring along a mechanic who knows these old Chevys, and be prepared for some additional work to get it into top shape. 10. We're checking out a 1979 Chevrolet C20 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $7,000. Let's dive into this blue beauty and give you the honest scoop. First off, this C20 is showing 65,600 miles on the odometer, which isn't too shabby for a truck that's over 40 years old. It's rocking a blue exterior with a matching blue interior, so if you're into color coordination, this might tickle your fancy. The truck comes with an automatic transmission, making it easy to cruise around town or hit the highway. Now let's talk about the good stuff. The seller mentions they've put on new tires and headlights, which is always a plus. It's got dual gas tanks, which can be handy for those long hauls. The AC is blowing cold, which is a real treat in an older vehicle like this. And the interior is reportedly in good shape, which is often a weak point in these vintage trucks. The seller claims it runs and drives well, which is encouraging. They've also labeled it as being in fair condition, with no significant damage or problems. And it's sporting a clean title. That's all good news. But remember, fair condition can mean different things to different people. However, let's keep it real here, folks. While the seller says there are no significant problems, any vehicle this old is likely to have some quirks or issues that aren't immediately apparent. The description is pretty brief, so there's a lot we don't know about the truck's history, maintenance, or potential rust issues, which are common in these old Chevys. At $7,000, the price seems reasonable if everything checks out, but you'll definitely want to see this truck in person before making any decisions. Give it a thorough inspection, especially checking for rust in the usual trouble spots like the cab corners, rocker panels, and bed. Take it for a test drive to see how it really performs on the road. Remember, buying a classic truck like this can be a fun adventure, but it's important to go in with your eyes wide open. This '79 C20 could be a great find with some potential, but make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. Don't be afraid to ask the seller plenty of questions about its history and any work that's been done. 11. We're checking out a 1979 Chevrolet pickup that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $14,000. Let's dive into this black beauty and give you the honest lowdown. First off, this short-bed Chevy is packing some serious muscle under the hood with a 7.4-liter 400-foot engine. That's a whole lot of power, folks. It's paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission, which should make for some smooth cruising. Now here's where things get interesting. The seller claims the truck has only 2,000 miles on it, but they also mention that it has a brand new engine with just 200 miles. So, we're looking at a classic body with a fresh heart transplant. That's definitely a selling point if you're looking for reliability in a vintage package. But let's keep it real here. The seller admits there are a few issues you'll need to consider. There's a small transmission leak that needs fixing, and the AC needs love, which could mean anything from a simple recharge to a complete system overhaul. The power windows and locks are a nice touch for a '79, but make sure to test them thoroughly. The exterior has some minor scratches and normal wear and tear, which is to be expected for a truck of this age. However, without detailed photos, it's hard to gauge exactly what normal wear and tear means. At $14,000, this truck is priced at the higher end for a '79 Chevy, likely due to the new engine and its overall rarity as a short bed. However, you'll want to factor in the cost of fixing that transmission leak and sorting out the AC. Remember, folks, while this truck sounds like it has a lot of potential, it's not without its quirks and challenges. If you're in the market for a classic Chevy with a powerful new engine and don't mind tackling a few issues, this could be a great find. Just make sure to inspect it thoroughly in person, take it for a test drive, and maybe bring along a mechanic who knows these old Chevys. The seller is firm on no trades, so if you're interested, you'll need to come with cash in hand. 12. We're checking out a 1969 GMC 1500 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $15,000. Let's dive into this white beauty with a black interior and give you the honest scoop. First off, this isn't your average '69 GMC. The seller has put some serious work into modernizing and customizing this classic. We're talking power windows, power door locks, and tinted windows, features you don't often see in trucks of this vintage. It's running a fresh 350 motor, which the seller claims has no issues. That's always good to hear. Now let's talk about the cool stuff. This truck is sitting on airbags, which means you can adjust the ride height. There's a 10-inch touchscreen, amp, and a 10-inch MTX sub for those who like their tunes loud and clear. The tow hitch is hidden behind the license plate for a clean look, and there are 2 compressors with a 5-gallon air tank hidden under the driver's side of the bed. Pretty slick setup. The seller mentions they've replaced the ball joints and bushings, which is a nice touch for improved handling. They've also got a triangulated 4-link suspension ready to be installed, which could really improve the ride and handling if you decide to put it in. But wait, there's more. The sale includes a parts truck with a 327 engine. That could be a goldmine for spare parts or even a future project. Now, let's keep it real. While the seller claims there's no significant damage or problems, Any vehicle this old that's been modified extensively could have some quirks. The price tag of $15,000 reflects all the custom work that's gone into it. But remember, custom builds aren't for everyone. You'll want to inspect it thoroughly and maybe bring along a mechanic who's familiar with both classic GMCs and custom work. This 69 GMC 1500 sounds like a labor of love that the seller is reluctantly parting with. If you're in the market for a classic truck with modern amenities and a bit of custom flair, this could be a great find. Just make sure you're comfortable with the modifications and are prepared for the potential challenges that come with a custom build. 13. We're taking a look at a 1985 Chevrolet C10 Custom Deluxe that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for a budget-friendly $2,500. Let's dive into this blue beauty and give you the honest scoop. First off, this C10 has been around the block a few times with 195,000 miles on the clock. It's sporting the classic $350 350 combo. That's a 350 cubic inch engine paired with a 350 transmission, a reliable setup that's easy to work on and find parts for. The seller says it runs, drives, and stops, which is always good to hear for a truck of this age. Now let's keep it real here. The seller is upfront about a couple of issues. The heater core needs replacing, which can be a bit of a pain but isn't a deal breaker. The passenger front caliper needs bleeding, which is a relatively simple fix for most DIY mechanics. Here's where we need to pay attention, folks. The seller mentions typical square body rust. Now, typical rust on these old Chevys can range from a few bubbles here and there to some serious Swiss cheese action in the usual trouble spots like the cab corners, rocker panels, and bed. You'll definitely want to get a good look at the extent of the rust before making any decisions. On the bright side, the truck comes with a clean title, and the seller claims there's no significant damage or problems beyond what they've mentioned. They also say they have paperwork, which could be helpful in understanding the truck's history. At $2,500, this C10 is priced in the budget-friendly range, which reflects its condition and the work it needs. It could be a great project truck for someone who's handy with a wrench and doesn't mind putting in some elbow grease. Remember, folks, buying an older truck like this is always a bit of an adventure. This 85 C10 could be a diamond in the rough, but make sure you go in with your eyes wide open. Inspect that rust carefully, test drive it if possible, and maybe bring along a mechanic friend to give it a once-over. If you're looking for a classic Chevy truck project that won't break the bank, this could be the one for you. Just be prepared for some work and possibly some surprises along the way. 14. You're checking out a 1979 GMC Sierra K20 Camper Special 4ERC4 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $10,000 or best offer. Let's dive into this blue beast with a black interior and give you the honest scoop. First off, this K20 is showing only 58,000 miles on the clock, which is pretty low for a truck that's over 40 years old. It's packing a 350 small block Chevy engine paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission. The seller says it runs and drives good, which is always nice to hear. Now let's talk about the good stuff. This truck's got some nice upgrades, including an Edelbrock performance intake, a new AVS2 carb, and an RV cam. The seller's also replaced a bunch of parts recently, including the starter, alternator, fuel pump, tie rods, drag link, U-joints, wheel bearings, and worn hubs. That's a pretty impressive list of new parts. But let's keep it real here, folks. The seller's been upfront about some issues that need addressing. The electric choke isn't wired up, there's a hole in the muffler, there's an oil leak from the valve cover gasket, and one of the dual fuel tanks has a leak at the filler neck. The leaf spring bushings need attention, and a headlight bulb is out. These are all relatively minor issues, but they'll need to be fixed. Cosmetically, the truck's looking pretty good with a 2-year-old paint job, though there are a couple of scratches. There's some minor rust on the outer rockers and bottom of the doors, but the seller claims no rust elsewhere. The bed's got a spray-in liner with a lifetime warranty, which is a nice touch. This K20's sitting pretty with a 6-inch lift, 3 body, 3 suspension, and 35-inch tires with good tread left. That's a setup that'll turn some heads and handle some serious off-road action. At $10,000, the price seems fair considering the upgrades and overall condition. But there's room for negotiation with that OBO, or best offer. The seller's also open to partial trades, so if you've got something interesting to offer, it might be worth a shot. Remember folks, buying a classic truck like this is always a bit of an adventure. This 79 GMC Sierra K20 sounds like it has a lot of potential, but it's not without its quirks and challenges. If you're looking for a lifted 4x4 with some character, and don't mind tackling a few minor issues, this could be the truck for you. Just make sure to inspect it thoroughly in person, and maybe bring along a mechanic who knows these old GMCs. 15. We're taking a look at a 1967 Chevrolet C10 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $6,500 or best offer. Now, let's dive into this green machine and give you the honest scoop. First off, I've got to point out a little confusion in the listing. The title says it's a Silverado with an automatic transmission, but the description calls it a C10 with a 4-speed manual. Just to set the record straight, the Silverado name wasn't used on Chevy trucks until 1999, so this is definitely a C10. As for the transmission, I'd bet on the 4-speed manual being correct, but it's worth double-checking with the seller. The seller says this 67 C10 runs and drives good, which is always nice to hear about a truck that's over half a century old. They're selling it because they don't have room for it anymore, which is a common story with these old beauties. Now, let's keep it real here, folks. The description is pretty bare bones, which leaves a lot of questions unanswered. We don't know about the mileage, the condition of the body or interior, or any recent maintenance or upgrades. The seller is offering more pictures or videos if you message them, and I'd strongly recommend taking them up on that offer. At $6,500, the price could be reasonable depending on the condition, but without more details, it's hard to say for sure. These old C10s have been climbing in value, especially if they're in good shape or have been well maintained. Remember, buying a classic truck like this is always a bit of an adventure. This 67 C10 could be a great find, but you'll want to do your due diligence. If you're interested, definitely ask for more photos, especially of any problem areas like the cab corners, rocker panels, and bed. Ask about the engine condition, any known issues, and maintenance history. It might be worth bringing along a friend who knows these old Chevys if you go to see it in person. And don't be afraid to negotiate. That OBO, or best offer, means there might be some wiggle room on the price. 16. We're checking out a 1979 Ford F-350 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $15,000. Let's dive into this white beast with a green interior and give you the honest scoop. First off, this isn't your average F-350. We're looking at a single cab dually with a custom flatbed that's 7 feet wide and 18 feet long total, with a 6-foot incline section. That's a serious work truck, folks. It's packing a 400 engine with an automatic transmission, and the title shows 105,000 miles. Now, let's talk about the good stuff. The seller's been upfront about the work they've done, and it's a pretty impressive list. We're talking a new battery, radiator, fuel tank and float assembly, partially rebuilt carburetor, new rear brake components, new brake master cylinder, and new ignition parts. That's a lot of fresh hardware, but let's keep it real here. The seller's also been honest about some issues. The truck won't idle when cold, which could be a choke problem. The electric winch might not work, and the odometer, fuel gauge, and temp gauge are out of commission. Oh, and a previous owner cut the parking brake, so that's something you'll need to address. On the bright side, the seller says it runs and drives, and the engine feels healthy. The frame is reportedly solid with only surface rust, which is pretty good for a truck this age. All the lights work, which is always a plus. At $15,000, the price might seem a bit steep, especially with the known issues. However, these old Ford Dualis with custom flatbeds can be hard to find, especially in solid condition. If you're in the market for a classic work truck with some character, this could be a good option. Remember, folks, buying a classic truck like this is always a bit of an adventure. This 79 F-350 sounds like it has a lot of potential, but it's not without its quirks and challenges. If you're looking for a unique flatbed dually and don't mind tackling a few issues, this could be the truck for you. Just make sure to inspect it thoroughly in person, maybe bring along a mechanic who knows these old Fords and don't be afraid to negotiate on the price. 17. We're checking out a 1983 Chevrolet C20 Custom Deluxe that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $6,400. Let's dive into this black beauty with a red interior and give you the honest scoop. First off, this long bed pickup is packing a 5.7 V8 350 small block engine, a tried-and-true power plant that's known for its reliability and ease of maintenance. It's a 2WD model, which is great for those who don't need the extra complexity of a 4x4 system. With only 156 miles on the clock, this truck has seen relatively little use for its age. Now, let's talk about the good stuff, because there's a lot of it. The seller has been busy with maintenance and upgrades. We're looking at new wheels and tires, new brakes and rotors, a new radiator, water pump, thermostat, fan clutch, belts, battery, windshield, fuel line, and muffler. That's a pretty impressive list of new parts, folks. All fluids and oils have been changed recently too. The seller claims the frame is in great condition with very little rust for its age, which is always good news for a truck of this vintage. They also mention it runs great and is road ready, which is music to any potential buyer's ears. But let's keep it real here. While the seller doesn't mention any specific issues, it's important to remember that this is a 40-year-old truck. Even with all the new parts, there could be some quirks or age-related issues that aren't immediately apparent. It's always a good idea to inspect these old trucks thoroughly or have a mechanic take a look. At $6,400, the price seems pretty reasonable considering the low mileage, the two-owner history, and all the recent work that's been done. These old C20s are gaining popularity among collectors and enthusiasts, so this could be a good opportunity to snag one before prices climb higher. Remember, folks, buying a classic truck like this is always a bit of an adventure. This 83 C20 sounds like it's been well cared for and has a lot of potential. If you're in the market for a solid classic Chevy truck that's ready to hit the road, this could be the one for you. Just make sure to give it a thorough once-over in person and maybe take it for a test drive to see how it handles. 18. We're taking a look at a 1984 Chevrolet 1500 that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller is asking $5,500 for this classic pickup truck. According to the seller's description, this Chevy 1500 has been driven for 100,000 miles and comes with a manual transmission. The exterior is finished in a sleek black color, while the interior color is not specified. The good news is that the vehicle is paid off and comes with a clean title. The seller mentions that this truck runs great and has been used as a daily driver without any issues. It's important to note that the truck has been lowered, but the seller assures potential buyers that it was done the right way and rides great. Under the hood, you'll find a 305 engine paired with a 5-speed manual transmission and a hydraulic clutch. The seller also claims that this truck gets an impressive 20 miles per gallon, which is pretty good for a vehicle of this age and size. One thing to keep in mind is that while the seller states that the vehicle has no significant damage or problems, it's always a good idea to inspect the truck in person and take it for a test drive before making a purchase. The seller is open to selling the truck outright or trading it for a 4x4 vehicle. So, if you have a 4x4 that you're looking to trade, this could be a great opportunity. Overall, this 1984 Chevrolet 1500 seems to be a solid truck that has been well maintained by the current owner. With its lowered stance, manual transmission, and decent fuel economy, it could be a fun and practical classic truck for someone looking for a unique daily driver or a project vehicle to customize further. If you're interested, be sure to reach out to the seller on Facebook Marketplace for more information and to schedule a time to see the truck in person. 19. We're checking out a 1980 GMC 3500 that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has priced this classic workhorse at $4,500. From the seller's description, we can see that this GMC 3500 comes with an automatic transmission, making it easy to drive. The exterior is painted in a classic black color, while the interior features a blue color scheme. The truck runs on gasoline, and the seller mentions that they are the first owner of the vehicle. That's always a good sign, as it often means the vehicle has been well cared for. The seller also notes that the vehicle is paid off and comes with a clean title, so you won't have to worry about any outstanding financial obligations or title issues. Now, let's dive into the specifics. The seller states that the power windows and locks are all in working order, which is great for a truck of this age. The factory radio is also functional, although the speakers are blown and will need to be replaced. The bench seat has been reupholstered, and the dash has been recovered, giving the interior a fresh look. In terms of storage, the truck comes with a Tractor Supply toolbox that includes keys for secure storage. The truck is also wired for trailer brakes, which is a great feature if you plan on using it for towing. Under the hood, you'll find a big block motor that's been equipped with a small cam, possibly an RV cam, although the seller isn't entirely sure. The front end has been replaced, and the truck features a TH400 transmission with a converter. The exhaust system has been upgraded to true dual Flowmasters, which should give the truck a nice throaty sound. The seller does mention a couple of issues to be aware of. One tire will not hold air, and one of the dually tires on the driver's side is leaking. While the truck has heat, there is no air conditioning. However, the seller emphasizes that this is a solid truck overall. It's important to note that the seller will not respond to messages simply asking if the truck is available, so be sure to read the full description and have any specific questions ready when you reach out. In summary, this 1980 GMC 3500 flatbed truck seems to be a well-maintained, classic vehicle with a lot of character. While it may need a few minor repairs and upgrades, it appears to be a solid truck for someone looking for a reliable workhorse or a unique project vehicle. If you're interested, be sure to contact the seller on Facebook Marketplace to learn more and possibly schedule a time to see the truck in person. 20. We're taking a closer look at a 1979 Ford F-150 that's currently listed for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has priced this classic pickup at $10,500. According to the seller's description, this F-150 has been driven for 100,000 miles and features an automatic transmission. The exterior is finished in a vibrant yellow color, while the interior sports a sleek black theme. The truck runs on gasoline, and the seller mentions that it's been paid off and comes with a clean title. Now let's dive into the details of this Restomod long bed truck. Under the hood, you'll find a built small block Chevy 355 engine, which is paired with a turbo 350 transmission. The truck also features an aluminum radiator and drive shaft, as well as an electric water pump for improved cooling efficiency. In the bed, you'll find a fuel cell, which is a nice touch for a Restomod build. The seller emphasizes that this truck is in extremely nice condition with zero rust present. The exterior has been sprayed with bed liner, giving it a tough and durable finish. The interior is also described as excellent, suggesting that it's been well maintained or possibly even restored. One thing to note is that the speedometer is currently not working, which is something to keep in mind if you're considering this truck. The seller mentions that they purchased this F-150 for a business opportunity that didn't materialize, and they're now offering it with an open Kansas title. They're firm on the price of $2,500 and are not interested in trades or tire kickers. Overall, this 1979 Ford F-150 Restomod seems to be a well-built and nicely finished truck. With its powerful small block Chevy engine, updated components, and excellent condition, it could be a fun driver or a great weekend show cruiser for the right buyer. If you're interested, be sure to reach out to the seller on Facebook Marketplace to learn more and possibly schedule a time to see the truck in person.